I am so excited for us to start our read aloud today. You voted, and the book that has won is The Wild Robot. So I'm so excited to be able to start reading this book with you. It is a super awesome and just really fun, sweet book, and I know that you're really going to enjoy it. Every day, I will post a read aloud with a few chapters on it. These chapters are pretty short, so I'll let you know in the title of the video what chapters are being read. And so if you have this book and want to follow along, that's great. If not, I will show you the pictures on and the words on the screen. Usually, I would have you come to the carpet. We would get close, get comfy, and just listen to a book that I was reading in person. But unfortunately, we're not able to do that right now. So, this is the next best thing. So, I hope you enjoyed this book. You can invite your family to listen in with you if you would like, and go ahead and get into a comfy position and let's start reading. So, The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I'm going to skip through all of this. All right, Chapter 1, The Ocean. Our story begins on the ocean with the wind and the rain and thunder and lightning and waves. A hurricane roared and raged through the night, and in the middle of the chaos, a cargo ship was sinking, down, down, down to the ocean floor. The ship left hundreds of crates floating on the surface, but as the hurricane thrashed and swirled and knocked them around, the crates also began sinking into the depths. One after another, they were swallowed up by the waves until only 5 crates remained. By the morning, the hurricane was gone. There were no clouds, no ship, no land in sight. There were only calm water and clear skies, and those 5 crates lazily bobbing along the ocean current. Days passed, and then a smudge of green appeared on the horizon. As the crates drifted closer, the soft green shapes slowly sharpened into the hard edges of the wild, rocky island. The first crate rode to the shore on a tumbling, rumbling wave and then crashed against the rocks with such force that the whole thing burst open. Now, reader, what I haven't mentioned is that tightly packed inside each crate was a brand new robot. The cargo ship had been transporting hundreds of them before it was swept up in the storm. Now only 5 robots were left. Actually, only 4 were left because the first crate crashed against the rocks and the robot shattered into pieces. The same thing happened to the next crate. It crashed against the rocks and the robot parts flew everywhere. Then it happened to the next crate and the next. Robot limbs and torsos flung onto the ledges. A robot head splashed into a tide pool. A robot foot skittered into the waves. And then came the last crate. It followed the same path as the others, but instead of crashing against the rocks, it sloshed into the remains of the first 4 crates. Soon more waves were heaving it up out of the water. It soared through the air, spinning and glistening until it slammed down into the tall shelf of rock. The crate was cracked and crumbled, but the robot inside was safe. Chapter 2, The Otters. The island's northern shore had become something of a robot gravesite. Scattered across the rocks were broken bodies of 4 dead robots. They sparkled in the early morning light, and their sparkles caught the attention of some very curious creatures. A gang of sea otters was romping through the shallows when one of them noticed the sparkling objects. The otters all froze. They raised their noses to the wind, but they smelled only the sea, so they cautiously crept over the rocks to take a closer look. The gang slowly approached a robot torso. The biggest otter stuck out his paw and swatted the heavy thing and quickly jumped back. But nothing happened. So they wiggled over the robot hand. Another brave otter stuck out her paw and flipped the hand over. It made a lovely clinking sound on the rocks, and the otter squeaked with delight. They spread out and played with the robot arms and legs and feet. More hands were flipped. One of the otters discovered a robot head in a tide pool and they all dove in and took turns rolling it along the bottom. And then they spotted something else. Overlooking the gravesite was the one surviving crate. Its sides were scraped and dented, and a wide gash ran across the top. The otters scamped up the rocks and climbed onto the big box. 10 furry faces poked through the gash, eager to see what was inside. What they saw was another brand new robot. But this robot was different than the others. It was still in one piece, and it was surrounded by a spongy packing foam. The otters reached through the gash and tore at the foam. It was soft and squishy. They squeaked as they snatched at the fluffy stuff. Shreds of it floated away on the sea breeze, and in all the excitement, one of their paws accidentally slapped an important little button on the back of the robot's head. Click. It took a while for the otters to realize that something was happening inside the crate, but a moment later they heard a low, whirling sound. Everyone stopped and stared, and the robots opened her eyes. Chapter 3: The Robot. The robot's computer brain booted up. Her programs began coming online, and then, still packed in her crate, she automatically started to speak. Hello, I am Razum, Unit 713, but you may call me Roz. While the robotic systems are activating, I will tell you about myself. Once fully activated, I will be able to move and communicate and learn. Simply give me a task and I will complete it. Over time, I find better ways of completing my task. I will become a better robot. When I am not needed, I will stay out of the way and keep myself in good working order. Thank you for your time. I am now fully activated. Chapter 4: The Robot Hatches. As you might know, robots don't really feel emotions, not the way animals do, and yet, as she sat in her crumbled crate, Roz felt something like curiosity. She was curious about the warm ball of light shining down above her. So she used her computer brain and went to work. She identified that the light was the sun. The robot felt her body absorbing the sun's energy. With each passing minute, she felt more awake. When her battery was good and full, Roz looked around and realized that she was packed inside a crate. She tried to move her arms, but there were restraints by the cords. So she applied more force. The motors in her arms hummed a little louder, and the cords snapped. Then she lifted her hands and pulled apart the crate. Like a hatchling breaking from a shell, Roz climbed out into the world. Chapter 5: The Robot Gravesite. Those otters were now hiding behind a rock, their round heads nervously poked up, and they watched as the sparkling monster emerged from the crate. The monster slowly turned her head as she scanned the coastline. Her head turned and turned all the way around, and it didn't stop until she was looking right at the otters. Hello, otters. My name is Roz. The robot's voice was simply too much for the skittish creatures. The biggest otter squeaked, and the whole gang suddenly took off. They galloped back across the robot gravesite, flopped into the ocean, and raced through the waves as fast as they could. Roz watched the otters go, but her eyes lingered on the sparkling objects that littered the shore. The objects looked strangely familiar. The robot swung her left leg forward, then her right, and just like that, she was taking her very first steps. She stomped away from her crate and over the rocks and through the gravesite until she was standing above a broken robot body. She leaned in and noticed the words Razum lightly etched into the torso. She noticed the same thing on all of the torsos, including her own. Roz continued exploring the gravesite until a playful little ocean wave washed over the rocks. She automatically stepped away from it. Then a bigger wave sloshed towards her, and she stepped away again. Then a gigantic wave crashed over the rocks and engulfed the entire gravesite. Heavy water pounded against her body, knocking her to the ground, and her damaged sensors flared for the first time. A moment later, the wave was gone, and Roz lay there, dripping and dented and surrounded by dead robots. Roz could feel her survival instincts the part of her computer brain that made her want to avoid danger and take care of herself so she could continue functioning properly. Her instincts were urging her to move away from the ocean, so she carefully got to her feet and saw that high above the shore, the land was bursting with trees and grass and flowers. It looked lush and safe up there. It looked like a much better place for our robot. She had just one problem. To get up there, she would have to climb the sea cliffs. All right, this is where we are going to stop for today. So come back tomorrow and we will continue reading The Wild Robot. But I hope you have enjoyed our story so far.